is there a dark side to fashion as an industry altogether? Is that the place where this fear factor comes from?
Casting couch uh, is actually a terrible term. In fact, the fashion industry is the second biggest industry in India after IT, the biggest creator of jobs in India. The first thing is you're just launching a business. You've launched a set of designs. You're definitely dreaming that it's going to go off the racks like this, and that's not going to happen. The institution that allows you to pass carries a certain amount of weight to it. And as a pass out, as a young pass out, you're a nobody. Nobody's seen your work.
Be helpful if you can throw a little light on what range the corporates would be willing to pay.
If you feel there is a certain profit to work on, go ahead. If you feel there is no profit, do not invest in time, and definitely do not invest your time, money, and effort in other people feeding you dreams. This is a huge warning I can give to a lot of young designers.
I've come across people who have been working in big labels, like well-known labels, but they've not been very happy with their pay, or the compensation has been very satisfying.
Firstly, I think there was a small misconception in your question itself that they're not happy.
Welcome back to Speak of Unspoken. In today's episode, we are delving into the heart of fashion industry. And trust me, this would be a guidebook to those who would love to pursue fashion as their career. We are in conversation with an alumni of NIFT and a faculty himself with more than 10 years of experience in reputed fashion colleges. He's also a founder of Aphrodite, a homegrown label well known for its eccentric colors and patterns. Let's take a short tour to his workspace.
I'm in my 14 carats, I'm 14 carat, doing it up like Midas. And you say I got a touch, so good, make you never wanna leave. So don't, gonna wear that dress you like, skin tight, do my hair up real nice, and syncopate my skin to your heart beating.
Hello, Naksa. How are you?
Doing good, Sanjana. Thank you. Thank you for calling me.
We welcome you to our show, Speak of Unspoken. So we have a lot of digging into fashion world today.
All the best. Let's see how much we can dig deep.
Yeah, perfect. So let's start with you. Who is Nageshwar, right? What is your journey? What does the fashion journey for you look like? We want to know how your path of fashion has been.
Fashion was not something that I wouldn't say I was born with it. When we are born, there's nothing in our brains. We're just a clean slate. So I was always interested in art, the fine art. And I was thinking I did want to get into something, on the creative side.
Okay.
So that was my first priority. And as I was searching, probably when I was 14, 15 and things like that, fashion had just opened up. The FTV had got launched, I think, in 96, 97 in
Right.
Bangalore. So we were seeing that, and when I saw that, how the next level of art was taken onto a garment, on a ramp and showcased beautifully, I thought, this is one area that I want to get into. And yes, slowly that happened. It was quite a fight, because definitely being an Indian, being a guy, you have a lot of expectations in the traditional families. So it wasn't easy to convince, you need to fight the battle at home first.
Absolutely.
And once the battle at home is won, then you need to fight the world. Right?
Endless ones.
Yeah. And then I started writing for the exams. Initially, again, not the best of starts, because I didn't qualify after 12th. I joined my computer degree course in Christ College.
Okay.
When I was in first year, again wrote the exam. I think I did get through. I got a decent rank, but then again, there was a battle happening at home. You're doing a technical degree. So I had to give it up, and I finished my degree. And when I was in my third year of my computers degree, and I knew it was going to finish in the next few months, wrote the exam again. And this time, luckily enough, maybe the entire set of practice got me a better ranking, in the national ranking list of written exams. And luckily enough, I got through with NIFT Bangalore. again, a small battle there because I had a job in hand. I was supposed to join Cognizant as a testing engineer. So I had to take a choice,
Okay.
fight through at home and say that this is what I want to do.
Right. It was so clear about being in the world of fashion, like, and you attempted it so many times until you actually got through. The perseverance.
See, two things. If you're going for the traditional line of education, in a country like India where, everyone is either an engineer, doctor, or a manager, and that's expected out of every household.
Yes.
Suddenly taking this up and fighting for it, if you're really passionate for it, I think you have to fight for it. If you
But at least in the 90s, that's a challenge of its own. Matlab, it's more difficult than it is today. The exposure was a lot lesser.
Well, I completely agree, but as time passes by, things change. We just need to learn to adapt to those times.
So, how do you suggest a commoner approach fashion? Like, if I start fashion design, where do I start?
So, you also come from the creative industry.
Yes,
Since I've known you,
yes,
I'm sure you would have heard the term self-taught,
yes.
right? And there are some really good people who have, who come from the self-taught background. Probably one example I can give you is this Goan designer, Wendell Rodrigues. So Wendell Rodrigues does not have a, technical education in fashion or anything like that. He's a self-taught designer. So something like that is one way to start, because creativity is not something that can be completely indoctrinated. We can only give a certain set of skills necessary to make sure that the person using those skills can come with better products,
Got it.
right? So that's where the education comes. Frankly speaking, I've always believed that education should not be taught in terms of design, but it should be taught in terms of the necessary skills to be imparted to a person. Being in the field of education as well for such a long time, for me, fashion is simple geometry,
Yes.
right? And when you look at a shape of the woman, when you're creating, let's say, a corset, a top, I mean, all these are for me are just terminologies. At the end of the day, for me, it's about achieving a certain shape.
Right.
That's where education comes into play. An uneducated person might not really have the necessary skills to achieve a certain shape or a dimension.
How is Indian schools for fashion here? Do you find it in par with the other schools in the foreign countries?
See, I wouldn't really comment too hard on that. I've got little exposure when it comes to foreign education, but yes, through a few experiences that I've seen, like there was this college I was teaching in, which had its affiliation with Birmingham University. So every few months, representatives of the university would come down and they would evaluate, how the students have been doing, how we've been guiding them, things like that. And so we've had a couple of conversations with them. So what I see is fashion abroad, like let's say the fashion capitals. Italy is probably at least about 600 to 400 years old as a fashion capital, right? That is probably the birthplace, the Renaissance period. And then, Paris for the last probably 150 years or 200 years. Then we've had London and probably 50 years New York.
Right.
And probably the last 50 years Tokyo as well. So these fashion capitals have been there for a very long time. So they've grown from their infancy stage to the adult stages. So fashion has evolved a little higher in those areas. India, I would say probably, with the whole education of fashion is not even 30 to 40 years old. For example, NIFT came up in 1987. We've had Bangalore NIFT only in 1997,
Okay.
right? And like I said, in the early 2000s, when I was trying to apply, there were hardly about 4 or 5 private colleges in Bangalore.
Right.
So probably you see the boom happening only in the last 15 to 20 years, where everyone's getting the exposure and they're saying that we want to be, a part of fashion some way or the other. And it has evolved. For example, a person trying to get an education 20 years ago would say that I want to be a fashion designer. But today, a person still graduating from a fashion course is able to say, I want to be a stylist, I want to be a merchandiser,
Yeah.
I want to be a buyer, I want to, I want to be probably they might even switch careers towards photography. styling. There are so many options today. The fashion industry in India is one of the main chemicals that actually allowed the fashion industry to boom as well. Because we are the second highest exporter of garments in the world,
Right.
right? And second biggest manufacturer of garments in the world. The second biggest silk producer in the world. And I think the second or the third biggest cotton manufacturer in the world.
Right.
So when it came to the foreign universities and Indian universities, what I really realized is those experiments have, those years and years of experiments, they have been able to, evolve a little ahead of us, is what I would suggest. And another problem is in the Indian education, we've always had that, spoon feeding kind of education system for years.
Yes.
When it comes to the sciences, when it comes to arts, there was something like we study towards it. We study the theory, we study the practicals.
Right.
Whereas, when it comes to the foreign education system, what I've realized is it's more research-based, understanding, exploration-based. But yes, it's been only about 15, 20 years. So we are still somewhat, I wouldn't say infancy, I would say an adolescence stage.
So we see the parents a little worried when their children want to get into fashion, right? So why that notion of fear is still there in the industry? Because although we are all open to this, there is a factor of fear. Can you explain why?
Okay. So, I mean, I wouldn't really blame anyone here. Definitely not the parents. They're definitely thinking for the best of their children
Yeah.
first. So every parents want their child that, probably once a child is an adult and the parents are not able to support them, the child is able to grow up and they're getting a basic set of education, basic set of skills so that they can use those skills to support themselves. That's what every parent wants. Right? And so every parent wants to play it safe with their child. They say, okay, you know what, if you probably study to be a doctor, you can start earning 25, 30, 40, 50,000 per month as you start. And probably in the next 10 years, you're able to have your own house, your own car, you're married, you're able to support your children as well. This is what every parent wants. So when it comes to fashion, I think the idea is like I said, it's only been the last 15 or 20 years where, there's been a boom happening. So the parents are still not educated enough as to know how the career in fashion can shape up as well. So probably 10 years after passing out, where will my kids stand? The parents are still don't know how it works for them.
There are no case studies enough.
I wouldn't say case studies. I would say the exposure and education is not adequate yet so that they are ready to accept it. For example, I do know a lot of my own friends and classmates who have passed out. They're sitting with amazing packages in top corporates. And I do have a friend who just bought his new Ducati.
Okay. Oh wow.
So the parents are not aware of this. So that awareness has got to be created first.
Right. But is there a dark side to fashion as an industry altogether? Is that the place where this fear factor comes from?
See, that is also a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't say that because, how do I phrase this? A few terrorists make the entire Muslim clan look bad I would say is like a misconception. So you don't blame Pakistan for terrorism. Right. You blame certain heads sitting over there for promoting terrorism to, irritate the right people. But entire Pakistan is not at fault. But when it comes to fashion, like I said, in your previous question, there's this reduced awareness. So people have become judgmental to blame the entire clan. And probably, small mistakes here and there of a few people is, reflecting on the entire community.
But is there things like casting couch that happens in different parts of the industry?
See, casting couch is actually a terrible term. Okay. We have been seeing news where recently during the whole boom of the Me Too movement and all, where a lot of the actresses came out and they said 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago, and then there were police complaints. So, in the film industry, industry itself did showcase. But what comes in the news is that the dirt is what comes out. It's not to a point where, you know,
The whole industry
the
can
whole
be bad.
community needs to be degraded about it. It's not really that bad. There's always a small percentage, like I said, a few bad rats and cats here and there. So, in fact, the fashion industry is the second biggest industry in India after IT, and the second biggest, the biggest creator of jobs in India.
Oh,
The government industry is actually the biggest employment agency in India.
absolutely. There's so much branched out.
Exactly.
Although you mentioned that fashion being such a large industry, like how is pay scale like? Can you break down right from a student who finishes the college, what can that person expect, and go all the way up to the persons who are working with the fashion labels?
See, the pay scales are definitely very, very variable. It depends on from where you're passing out. I mean, it's pretty much very similar to all other areas as well. For example, if you want to look at IT or engineering, it depends from where you pass out from.
Does that work out the same here as well? Because
Pretty
when it
much.
comes to creative industry, we kind of come to this notion of the work speaks all the time and stuff like that.
See, I would say initially when a student has just passed out, in fact, I just had a little talk about this with a couple of students recently also. I was just invited to Pearl to talk to a few students and guide them. And this is exactly what we said. The institution that allows you to pass carries a certain amount of weight to it. And as a pass out, as a young pass out, you're a nobody. Nobody's seen your work,
True.
right?
Makes sense.
What you do in the next 10 years needs to start speaking volumes about what your valuation is, right? So 10 years after passing out from college, nobody's actually asking them which college did you pass out from.
Right.
But initially, for these students to get a good platform, passing out from a relevant institute is very important, because that gives them a platform where they're already accepted at the beginner stage. Probably the person in from the other college might be a lot better from the guy passing from here, but nobody knows that. So it gives you a certain platform saying that, a kid out of this institution has a certain value to
It's
him.
like these checklists are taken care of.
Exactly. Exactly.
I've come across people who have been working in big labels, like well-known labels, but they've not been very happy with their pay, or the compensation has been very satisfying. Can you throw some light on why and how to deal with these?
Okay. So firstly, I think there was a small misconception in your question itself, that they're not happy.
Okay.
I did recently meet a designer who has started his own brand. But he actually told me he worked with labels like JJ Valaya and Tarun Tahilyani, and then a few more places here and there, and then finally he started his own brand. And let me tell you, I don't want to take this guy's name, but he's somewhat of kind of a legend in the fashion industry among our peers.
Okay.
Okay. So when a person is going to work under a designer label, they are not looking to earn money. Or if they've just joined it without realizing things, then I think the person has not done enough homework. So when you join a designer label, you are going there to learn. You are going there to understand, 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, if I want to, be at a stage like Sabyasachi or Ritu Kumar, what is it that I need to do? So definitely there, more than the employer using the skill set of the employees for his or own benefit, is actually also imparting a certain set of skills, spending time and effort on grooming the employee to somewhat be at par with them at some point of time in their lives.
It's a kind of internships in some ways.
Exactly. They are going there to be groomed into a top end fashion designer in a few years or a few decades. So they're going there to learn. So you cannot expect that a person is paying you handsomely and spending time with you to groom you. Yeah, I mean,
Fair.
yeah. When it comes to corporate, you're you're a beautifully working cog in a huge machine. So definitely the corporate pays better. They have much better financial resources. They have much streamlined processes where everyone is playing a small role. You're not really getting too educated there. That is the different ideology of either working with a designer or working with a corporate. And I would say every student or a person interested in fashion and wanting to open up themselves into the world of fashion needs to first think where they want to do and what they want to do in the next 5 or 10 years or 15 years. Based on that, they need to start working towards what they want to do.
And for our viewers, basically, it would be helpful if you can throw a little light on what range the corporates would be willing to pay.
See, it's a creative field, right? And after 5 years or 10 years passing out from an institute or whatever, your creativity is what speaks about you. So one thing I can tell you, I have my own friends where in the corporate there's probably guys who are earning something like a 3 lakhs per month package, and there are guys who are also earning 1 lakh per month package. Okay, but yeah, this is about 15 years down the line. Okay, and on the initial side, I would say getting a certification or getting education, like I said previously, a good platform from a reputable institute carries a certain weight. So probably passing out from a reputable institute, probably I would say you can expect pay packages between at least 5 to 12 lakhs. Coming down from a not so reputed institutions, I would say your pay packages would probably work between 1.5 to 5 lakhs.
Got it. So there's a range of things for fashion, right? So how would one know that they are right fit for fashion? So what are the checklist I should know?
Skill sets.
Yeah, skill sets.
Okay, the biggest misconception, when a kid is about to enter the world of fashion through formal education, the biggest misconception, which even I went through, and for me it was a cultural shock, is that a person with a brilliant creativity and is able to come up with amazing designs on paper can actually become a great fashion designer, and I'm just going there to make myself better. That is not it. Because fashion as such has a lot of skill sets that you need to understand. For example, for me, the most important skill sets are, the technical knowledge of sewing, the technical knowledge of pattern making, and probably at least a basic knowledge of draping. Okay, these are the 3 main skill sets that we definitely require. Beyond that, maybe industrial techniques of sewing, industrial streamlining processes, a little bit of marketing and management. I would say just a little skimp off the surface is fine on those subjects. And illustration skills. That's another very important technical skills. So these are all the skill sets that we have to learn and imbibe into us. Because I remember this amazing faculty of mine who used to tell me this all the time. It took me about 5 to 6 years after passing out to realize what she said. Any design which is beautiful on paper but technically cannot be made into a product, that piece of paper is not worth more than the same piece of paper you are using to wipe your behinds. So it can be a great piece of art, but it's just a worthless piece of paper.
Without functionality, it's
Exactly.
nothing. We want to know, like, how important is fashion shows for a designer? Is it hyped too much, or do they really find meaningful connects?
So fashion shows usually give 2 things: business, exposure,
Right.
right? So before investing time, effort, and money into a fashion show, I would tell all the young designers out there, put a small calculation table. If you're doing this fashion show, what is the possible business that you might get? Frankly speaking, the first 10 years I must have done like about 25 shows.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And before anyone approaches me for a show, I only ask him these things. What is the kind of crowd you're putting? What is the kind of PR you're giving me? What am I getting back? All right. And at some point for me, being a traditionalist, if I get some kind of mathematical numbers, I'm very happy to hear it. But if people are talking to me about emotions and exposure and vague terms, I would say, you know what, I think I'm senior enough to tell you that I'm beyond these little dreams you're trying to feed into me.
I'm way past the excitement
Okay.
now.
Because I see two things. There are many different types of fashion shows. So, for example, when you go to a fashion, when you actually are lucky enough to be standing in a place like Lakme India Fashion Week or something like that, you actually know that there are probably a set of buyers sitting in front of you, owners of multi-designer outlets sitting in front of you, who are looking at your product and saying that maybe I want to profit out of him. So after the show, I want to talk to him. So that for me is profitability. Okay, if that is not happening, what's the next stage? Okay, you know what, you're going to have about let's say 100 social media people talking about you tomorrow. All right, and they're all going to be sharing a lot of stories and reels, and these are the kind of set of followers that they have. Now that is an indirect gain happening there.
And there can be types for costume design, movie designs, and
Exactly. So there is some profit happening there, but there is also a certain set of crowd who are coming there to get entertained, right? For example, a lot of the pub shows that I've seen is pure entertainment. So if you are doing that, all right, is even there, if you feel there is a certain profit to work on, go ahead. If you feel there is no profit, do not invest in time, and definitely do not invest your time, money, and effort in other people feeding you dreams. This is a huge warning I can give to a lot of young designers.
I think this goes to everything, every field basically,
Every creative field.
every creative field. So, with so many years of industry experience, and you've been probably seeing thousands of students who are passing out, I think you already know the top few colleges who are producing few of the best designers out there. So, what are your top picks?
See, when you talk about the top colleges, now there are colleges which has created its brand value, right? Like for example, when you look at some of the ratings like Outlook ratings and things like that, you know that 8 out of the top 10 institutes are from NIFT. So probably the NIFT Bangalore, Kannur, Hyderabad, Delhi. Delhi's always been number one for a long time, and NIFT Chennai, Mumbai, and I would say probably the other college which has actually been facing stiff competition to be able to take those other two spots are actually Pearl Institute. Pearl, they have Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore.
Okay.
So I think Delhi and Bombay have actually been giving stiff competition to the NIFTs. So these are probably the top institutes as per the rankings across the country. Locally speaking, there are few other institutes which are doing a pretty decent job. What I would really say is, like I said previously, when you do your homework, see what is the quality of people also coming out. Because every college has its plus and minuses. The problem is design in India is still not a standardized procedure. Like I said, it's still in an adolescent stage, design in India. So each college has its own set of experiments. They have developed their own set of techniques. So you need to also look into all those things before you realize whether that college suits your intention.
So we're sitting in this beautiful boutique. What really went into building this? So right from investment point of view, employees, all sort of resources that you have. So someone who is dreaming to have something like what you have, so
Okay,
please
so-
suggest.
So today, in the world of fashion, there are a lot of options. You don't really have to set up a space where you need to have your workers sitting, tailors, the whole rigmarole. You want to work on simple garments, small productions, there are people who can get it done. You don't know design, there are people you can hire and get it done, or you can even ask someone to work on a project. Coming back to the previous question, the answer is pretty much similar. So I just said, even after passing out, you need to calculate your decisions.
You're right.
So all I say this is same thing, calculate your decisions. So now let me just give a small breakup according to me. Out of my experience, what I've been
Yes.
advising the kids. So when a person says 2 to 3 lakhs, I say probably you have enough money to make a simple collection. Try not to blow your entire money into making that one collection. I would say use about 40 to 50% of the money to make the collection. Now, after making the collection, there are many ways you can promote your garment. Either you want to, go in for marketing, or offline marketing, online marketing. Plan your budgets. And then you want to go online. That means you need to have a website. You need to have social media management. So all that is actually quite an expensive affair in today's era where we're living in the social media era. Right.
So it's not about pouring all the money to set a space up, but you're asking to create products which can sell.
One of my old students only who came up with a similar request, I think she said about 2 to 3 lakhs. I said use about 30% in making your first collection. Just make 30 pieces of garments. And I told her, you know what, keep the rest of the money. Don't blow it. You live in an apartment, probably about 100 or 150 houses. I'm sure you will have a small community area and all that. Let's just go back, organize a high tea, spend 20,000 bucks to organize a high tea. So the first thing is you're just launching a business. You've launched a set of designs. You're definitely dreaming that it's going to go off the racks like this, and that's not going to happen. Okay. It is about whether the person looking into your design feels the worth in buying your garment.
100%.
Right? So organize the community to come together. Even if it doesn't fly off the racks, don't get dejected. Take everyone's feedbacks. So after taking their feedback, see if you can improve the second collection. There are chances are by the second time you've learned a few of your mistakes, there are better chances of your products flying off the shelves.
Right.
Run your experiments as a calculated risk. So even if you got 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs, there's a small amount that you can invest to test your market out.
Right.
So that's the thing. So depending on how much money you have, I would probably suggest as to how much. If somebody says 20 lakhs, I say you have enough money to take a place for rent, set up a studio, hire 3 to 4 people, 2 tailors, 1 master, 1 embroiderer. These are the 3 main components: master, tailor, and embroiderer. So hire everyone. You have enough money to survive for 6 months. By 6 months, you need to start making the money back, at least to pay them back and your rentals. That means you're safe. If in 6 months you've not done that, then there's probably something a little wrong going. You need to concentrate better. And if you can still maintain another 3 to 4 months, if you're able to stand by and keep your process running, definitely there is a scope of improvement.
I think that's pretty much. Is there anything that you would want to add?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and speak to you, and really appreciate that. Now, what I wish to add towards the end, whatever you do it passionately, but don't do it impulsively. That's the one thing I can give for all the younger ones out there.
Yes, I think that's very important, especially in this particular field. The creative explosion that happens, impulsively takes
Passion
its
and
own
obsession
actions.
is fine, but impulsiveness is not good.
Yes, I think it's been amazing to even give a chance to cover all your collections, your thought process, and how your brain really functions to really come up with such amazing pieces. So
Thank you.
it's been amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for being
Sanjana.
here.
Nice catching up with you and talking to you again.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and it was insightful. Please do like and subscribe to this channel. It would really motivate us to bring more of such useful content. See you soon.